Gulchish away yuxatini, kat yuhan. Asach tu yek eya yeki, uchin khasati. Ya tak tlashkek akuste, ya ḳunat'ání. Just siu dak ustanch. Hak yeki. Echosaku gusutleid. Wanach se tlashkuste. Clea tak, gwell cleich tak siw hichin. Ya guksa yechat wutien. Katchatsik sewak ak guksa. Kuchwatin. Kuchte tini koa. Seattle kaya hawu chatwutien. Naskadu shuga ak anach a yechat wutien. Achuni, kunachawe achuni sal nili. Du aya at chokuch. Seattle an kuk aya we jaji akahiti kutsati. Ach aya watu u jaji kwani haji yes kahayatki. Joya ko ajakawayikt watu litya hadana. Kusti yidat we glade. Wanach say watu u watu sakun. Yewecho ach yayagi. Gwell cage in talkshuk wahich aka Kleidushu 1 degrees ayanach kukwata kekukwata yaha anikuk dat yaksakakwati a klein siu tauk kanach kunachwe kukwahuk we kutan adat you tuchutan wasat kukwane kunachwe yanatain ya Lingit'aaní wasat kukwane hajiyis Kilja yanach litsin. Gwalwe an wushich itl. Zuyak wahich. De shu owe atlein a. Ltekat ya asquani a khas wushich itl. Yewe dat you tuchtatan ya ha'ani. Lingit'aaní. Wasat kakwane kak. Hintaak xóodzi xónach tlidzi has to jiyen the teach. Achawe tel T'aawáḳ kusti has to ani kuk. T'aawáḳ has to toasugo kachazawa tlun. Wasaya has kutsigi. Gall yisiku has to duk. T'ujiach yati. Has to dachawu cho a kunachawe. An. Kleidjach has yati. Ya has to tlukho a t'ujiach yati. Klesh has to tuawish guan wait sa. Hasawas tini. Etchaway yindatan has shusta. Aka has to kli akanachaya has to jin yadayach. Klaye has yati. We sa ach kaseguye. Woo shaya kutsati yat ik. Hasausakuku gwatkin saya. Kinde yak rasa. With sa tak aya hasawa shad gwatlawa tak. Atluns ate. Weku u aye yatien. T'aawáḳ yidu sak Lingit'aaní has to yukatangi tin kwa Iñupiaq. Kunachawe has outlatin. We hintaak xóodzi. Adachawe has ausaku ade adatlunya. With sa. T'aawáḳ. Ish yachyati. Kakdihina wachwaach. We Inuit ku'u. Ginjit'aaní. Kunachawe naki hasa ani. Kullechwa. Yisikuge kullechwa. Kunachawe yayati a. Tan klein yach. Kullechwa yidusak. Hastu atchai awe. Adugu kunachawe gwalyadeach T'aawáḳ. Hasawa jakwe ku'u. Kullechwa. Hastu yagu aya. Hastu yagu tin. Yan hasawa chut. Aka awe an kuk aya hasawa chut. Adatawe has jiwane. adugu gwell yada kuge at hasakawahash we tlatki kach ayas ausani aqa we dli atli achawahash dugu akade dug gwell klein yachyati Llidatin hasakawllawall aqa hasakawaha we dugu zas klein yachyati at hasalyechen we ade ye hasjine ye just glee qa adu gutin. We do aqoa ada it da sa tlell haska gwacha. Wall naskinach we qa una tleka hasjiu decha tlita ada di hasjiu ne. Ayuk tleye ye hasjiu ne wuchin you has awatlatkin. Adain away has out liqen. We an kadishkiti at qa camera. Hechwasaku kuchte with the good quatlie. Aqa wutusatin qiyaw the high kach has to khanke wuti hintaak xóodzi. Hintaak xóodzi has to khantuagat. Woosh hasak liqain waqaq qa hintaak xóodzi. Gwash waqaq adat you has tulte at. Dasa ye kakisini. We hintaak xóodzi kash de gainach. Kutlechwa da it a de oe yautza a kakashte genach awa tug. Just chaye gu genki a dach oe awa tug a kakone awa cha. We inuit ku oh heshwasa kakwati kuna just a data ya ye has jiwani. Khat tlek tleshat to ashku kuna wuch khanch ye has yeti ko. Khosaku just cleared geek with tlek a shawat khatu yeti ko. Hasawa jakho hintaak xóodzi ishan. Ilchish a reiti sa achi ilchish. Asatsu. A katratse o kakol shkun yejine ejid khoti. A qachosatin ujda a kaushahit. A tusa a kaushahit we yati yukatangi. Ah, khosakuye dat guksa tusa tujiu. Ke yi kawanik. Eksha ke yi kawanik. Gwall bas tai away i hitch. Bas lechosaku asai chochotati. Gwall a iti asandech ak adat agachtil qain yis Lingit'aaní wutullayech khatra qaqatla. Ukecha cutting taxi cab atlain plunger. Okay, Johan. Nask aqotzati ya hayejni. Tlek a shkalnik qagachtunik. Dech a ya hayuqatangi jishagun da. We tlekach inach Lingit inach tlye wuti at tlekach inach negative perfective. Qawit atsu. We hintaak ku just qone ya has anashkuk yuqatangi. Hasakaushihit adat yejechone. We verb monsters. Get that too. Naski aqotzati daqasa ituasaku adat yejetune qoaya idat. Shkalnik negative perfective verb monsters. Daqasa ituati. Decha ke.
Deich.
Yekwati.
ḵunat'e.
Ah,
Ishkalnigi we hintaak xóodzi T'aawáḳ walrus.
kutlekwa.
Ḳunat'e. Ḳunat'e atugu attached to the dliyitsu.
Oh, well, they cut it off. So I guess that would be. Oh, let's look at this real quick. I always forget what they are. I gotta show you. So I guess there really are more than one way to skin a cat if you're speaking Tlingit. And if you're going to skin that cat, then what really matters is, are you going to make something out of that cat skin? If you're making a cat skin hat, then you're going to skin it different, then you're just going to throw it away. So that, I think, is the big difference on which skinning verb you're going to use. And so I first learned this when I was watching someone skin a seal, and I just said, T'aawáḳ, and I got corrected. And then I looked it up and I found out that there's two ways to say it. And so when the speaker used one, I think he assumed that they were going to use the skin. So this is t'aawáḳ. So here you get it's an act verb, and we know that because it shows us an imperfective. And it's not a state verb, right? So what we don't know is whether it's zero or not. It's got to be one of those two because it gives us an imperfective and a future. But the imperfective doesn't tell us anything. The future tells us it's not ga or qa because there's no preverb. So it says either zero or not. I would guess zero, but we'll see. And then there's ish. So so ish would be if you're just going to toss it. You're not going to do anything with that high. So you're just cutting it off just to get it off so you can get to the eaten part. And then the t'aawáḳ is usually like being very careful because I think you're going to do something with the hide. So it would be t'aawáḳ, and maybe it would be has'awat'et if it's zero. So they did use let's do a little bit of sleuthing. Okay, so let's look up t'aawáḳ in Lear and see if he notes. I'll bet you he'll have a perfective example which will solve this for us, but he might also just note the conjugation prefix for us. So if we go down to t'aawáḳ, then he does. It's n. So now we got it, right? So then we see a perfective that's long and high. It all adds up, matches up, right? So then you would tell someone, not t'aawáḳ. That would be the command for skin it very carefully. And then a t'aawáḳ, and it gives you the imperfective as well. So now we can use that verb any way we want to. Any way, future, hortative, we could do it all now. Oh, we really need the imperfective if it has one, and then to know the conjugation prefix, and the rest we can get, right? And then the other one was quiche, so we'll go look for that one. So then we get skin, and that one's also na. And then it shows us the imperfective. And all we need really is, I think, is the imperfective and the conjugation prefix, and we could use that verb however we want. The only other element that could be missing is the stem variation. T'aawáḳ ends with a pinch, so it's got to stay high. Quiche, we see the perfective low, so there we go. It's normal because it shows high here, low there. So it should be just a normal stem. It should do everything that we expect it to. So they were. So that's how you use these two documents together. I go to the verb dictionary first because I'm most familiar with it. I could look up stuff really fast there. And then if I don't find what I need, I can go in here.
So what's the rule between the I versus the E on
Oh, did it show both?
yeah.
Okay. Let's go back to it. So I only see 8 here.
But when you go to the skin, not the skin one, go to the other one.
Oh, ish.
These, yeah.
It does show T'aawáḳ-ish. So maybe one speaker said T'aawáḳ-ish, which would mean there's a 0 version of it. That's all we know.
Just looking at my notes, I see T'aawáḳ. It remove the dermis from, or the hair from the dermis, but you save it. So I have some notes I gotta find too.
Oh, wow. Well, let's go look at the verb dictionary for remove. There's probably a bunch of things that pop up with remove.
Yeah, T'aawáḳ is hair removal. T'aawáḳ, scraper. T'aawáḳ, hintaak, wood rack.
Huh. We got pulling out teeth, jade, which is like, that's to move multiple objects that are the same kind. Does that make sense? Oot, that might be its own verb, or I don't know, for removing a splinter. So that should be a 0 in both cases. It's removing the guts of the salmon. Is how I've heard that one. Nuqaq is removing the shell. That also works for like taking the egg. And xóodzi is taking the hair off of it. Yeah. Yeah, on the xóodzi.
Yeah. Let's see. Soak and stretch.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Quads. Quads. To remove the hair. Quads.
That one's not in Jeff's notes, though. And these guys were, they were skinning. They skinned this walrus. Then they were using they cut the hide into these squares, like this, so big, and it's really thick skin. Walrus skin's very thick. We have a helmet that's made out of it. It's very cool. Well, they cut it in these squares, and then they make these holes in it, a t'aawáḳ. And then they would cut these long strips, like a zos plane. And they would put meat onto the skin and then fold it up like a bag and sew it shut. It was really cool. And so these guys had, I think, gotten all the meat off of the carcass. It was just the carcass left. It was over there. And they were working on this meat and sewing it up making their bags and sewing it all up. And then they were all speaking in their language. They were Inuit peoples. And then all of a sudden they stop. Like one had a gun and the other 2 were working. So you had like the watcher guy, right? And then they all start talking and they're looking over this way. And the camera zooms back and then you see a polar bear over there. You had just walked up to them. So they're looking at the polar bear and kind of just talking to each other, but looking at it. And the polar bear's just standing there looking at them. And I think those guys were thinking like, well, what are you gonna do? And then it was really cool because it leaned in very slowly and bit the carcass. And then it just drug it just a tiny bit, just nudged it away from them. And that was sort of signaling, like, I'm just gonna eat this. And then it started eating it, and then they just went back to work. It was just like, everybody was cool. And I thought that was just really, wow. Yeah, that's what we're talking about in the way. Skinning things and using the hide to pack meat. Okay, go to Cheesh. So
Can I
let's
ask a question? Quick question. I think you were talking about the weather, and I think you said something about the snow coming off of T'aawáḳ. Is that snow coming off the tree people?
I said maybe winter doesn't exist on Aqquan land. just siu dak ustanch, just rains all the time. Tesh glade. Then I was complaining because last year I went down to meet Sal Neely and we went to the store and we bought skis for my whole family. And now there's no snow. So it's like, well, maybe like we just threw our money into the thin air. But whatever, it'll be fine. But then I was saying, like I heard on the radio today, that they think in, what they say, 10 years or something, it's gonna be 6 degrees warmer here. And I like, what a big deal that is. I think they said 10, I can't really remember. Maybe it was 20. But then I thought, whoa, it's just gonna be rain all winter. And then they said there's gonna be droughts in the summer. And then I was thinking I said, on wushachit, which is, there's different ways to talk about slides, right? On wushachit would be like there was a landslide. Teqadi is specifically a rock slide. And then Lingit'aaní is an avalanche. But that wushachit, I think, for me, it seems like they have different names because a rock slide and an avalanche is actually a pretty common thing. But with a landslide, that's a bigger deal. We have lots of stories about them, how they cause giant floods, and and we know, like in Haynes, just a few years ago, there was a huge landslide, and so I said, T'aawáḳ, like all the tree people just slid right off. And I worry about that stuff. I worry about our land, worry about what's going to happen. So that's what I was talking about.
And that's change.
Ḥunat'e,
Mm-hmm.
ya yagayi T'aawáḳ Basin Road kach. Trestle kach.
That's Gani.
One more question, if I may, about Asquani. Can you share with me, I'm not sure if this is the best time, but what are appropriate ways like Saquani, Asquani? What else can you refer to as Quani?
Well, I think anything. I'll pull up a chair. Nobody's in the room. Pull up a chair. I think it could be anything. But when you say Quani, you're talking to the spirits of the thing. So that's the thing. Like if I say Asquani, I'm not just like, hey, look at this tree. Like I'm saying, tree people. And it's a spiritual language. And I was actually reading about this because Kusine and I were talking about some different names and ideas. And then I saw, what did I find? Let me find this. It was in Hatu Nagu Yis, which let me pull that up.
While he's pulling that up, Kashuk, that's, I worked with Ḥunat'e on my blanket. Kashuk took a video today.
Oh, yay. Okay. Okay, where am I going to find this? When you look for spirits in this, you get like 1 million entries. So. And then where was there's a Quani part in here that I'm looking for. Okay. I think I'm getting close. Okay. Let's take a look at these. So getting into spiritual language, which the Tao and Howers did document for us. And this is something It does feel like it's ḳatl'etsi'kwa a little bit. It's a little bit sensitive. But as far as looking at the Tlingit belief structure and system, there's a few different ways. So like it took me a while to understand some of this stuff too, through just teaching and talking about it. So ayak'quahe'equ is the living spirit in everything. You, me, a deer, a tree, in a single being. Every single thing has ayak'quahe'equ. Insiders thing, like I was writing a Mali of Denali episode and I said, there's a spirit in everything. And they made me change it to, we believe there's a spirit in everything. So I was like, fine. But this is, you would have a spirit that leaves if you were to pass away. So yaq'quahe'equ would go. And the word itself means, I think it's an image that will be removed. It's a future, it's a complicated thing, but it's related to yahayi. That's the same verb. And then you have yake. And yake is the, it helps the icht. So some people and things stay and become yake. And they're mostly, they could be former icht, they could be a person, but they are most commonly an animal. So some kind of animal gives itself to the icht. The icht would fast for 4 days, and on that fourth day, if they were going to kind of level up, like an animal would walk out and just fall over dead, and they would cut the tongue out and put it in a pouch, and then that would become its spirit helper in their ceremonies. Quyek, we get this with seemingly with animals. Quyek, kuyek. I do think it's specifically talking about some sort of spirit helper of an animal specifically. So again, not like generally speaking to all of the martins or all of the seagulls. And then there's yaq'quahe'equ, qakinayegi is like a personal spirit helper. Tsikiqawu is a ghost or the spirit of a dead person, which could also be called yahai. Oh, it's right there. There's yahai. Hashagenya. So shagenya is like a, I think it means it's near the area, it's protecting the area that would touch the head. And then kwani. So kwani is where you're speaking, using spiritual language to talk to something. So if I was gonna harvest some tz'acht, I would probably have a short prayer. Tz'acht kwani, gulchish ha'iti deshi, yiyatki, haska kwachash, ya hanagu yes, chakoe hatlil kohasas to T'aawáḳ ya uhansu, hatu nagu yesaya, konekha kwachash gulchish hawe. And there's different ways you could say these things. But yeah, it's as kwani, tit kwani, dakakina kwani. So this is where I got the idea for the name of like spirits above a mountain, or, you know, so kina is above something. So that's where you get, and so you could kushta kwani, kit kwani, khat kwani, like all of those work, but it means you're using a spiritual level of language. You're talking to the spirits of those things. And then for me, it seems to certainly be related to the moments when they turn themselves into a human. Like there's all kinds of stories about someone going into a house and the animals would take all their hides off and then just walk around like people. And that would be seeing them as kwani. Or when Aqtatsin gets turned into a salmon, but in his mind, he's just hanging out with humans. That's also, there's a relationship there. You get taken by the kushta, and then they're kushta chuch'e'iti.
Spirits above Indian Islands. That's something I really want to figure out, because I spent a lot of time there. It's a great place.
Wow. Okay.
South Pass, 3 Hill, George's Island. You know, they all did the seaweed and everything.
Wow. Yeah, I want to go out there this summer. It'll be fun.
And the cheese.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
Une,
Ah,
How about the word wusu? Wusu?
oh, like the verb?
Like a helper?
It's like,
In
is that blessing? Is that what it's under in here? What is that? Fortune? I'll look up the verb.
T'aawáḳ.
yeah,
So
yeah.
to strength.
Uh-huh.
Mm.
Fortune. So yeah, there's a few ways to talk as well. I guess these things are kind of related. So there's a sayahe, which was they wanted it. They were wishing for it and wanting it. And there's tuasagu. I guess to a lesser extent, there's like tuasagu, want it or like it. Sayahe, want it and wish for it. At'aawáḳ, my hope, and then it's like my strong prayer. Like I'm praying for this thing to happen. And then related to those would be llachait, which is fortune or luck, llynach, which is wealth, and then du'iqabusu, which would be, for me, I've always heard that one as like they received a blessing.
Mm.
So it's more than being lucky, right? It's like the spirits were looking out for me, or something. We were starving, and then this animal just came right in front of us. Ha'iqabusu, like the spirits sent it to us, right? So that's the way I've heard this one. But then we see these examples here, like I found work. It's not really like a supernatural blessing, but maybe it was, right? Hard times, I don't know. But it usually means like you were fortunate. And so like when in that raven and the whale story, he says, he said, no, tlak, 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 ha'iqawusu. He's like, did you kill this whale? That's really awesome. And they said, no, it's just our good fortune. So that one would be, and you usually have iqa, so it just attaches to this empty base.
Mm.
And again,
Jeez.
all we have is perfectives there, so all we know is that it's not a zero. But then we can go look for examples of it, but we can also look in here and see if Lear has it. And then that's what this little n notes. No conjugation. Now we could use it any way we want. We probably wouldn't use a command form for this. That sounds too bossy. Send supernatural aid. Who are you gonna say that to? Can't boss around the creator. Jeez.
I thought I heard Kakatlat say it last night in her speech. Did she?
Yeah, she was saying how fortunate we were that we could.
Yeah.
I think she said, I was so fortunate to be invited here.
Mm.
And she was saying we're so wealthy and we're so fortunate. She's talking about like just being on, that's her father's land, her grandparents' land, and just how happy she was to be there and what it meant to her. And yeah, I'll work on some permissions. I think we'll collaborate so that we can transcribe and translate that, because it was such a wonderful speech. I mean, just amazing, just the stuff that she was talking about. I think it's fun because some of you weren't there, and so it's great that you get to hear it and see it. And some of you were there, and I think it's really fun to go over, like, you were there when this was said, because there might be some stuff you didn't catch, right? There might be some stuff that you did, and you're like, hey, I had that. Okay. Negative perfectives. These are very important. Not that way, didn't happen. Also, this is how you construct a lot of the relative clauses. So if you looked up I didn't see you, you'd find you could chop off tlech, put a relational suffix on the end, you get yak'e'uchsatini. Exact same structure, right? You just cut the tlech off the front and you add the I at the end. Okay. So a negative perfective, the biggest thing I think to watch for is the vowel cancellation. That's probably the biggest thing. And I think also getting the awu, right, and stuff like that. You're gonna hear it in there. So you do have the irialis and the perfective marker, but they usually just blend together. It's very common that they just blend together. The important thing is that the classifier is minus I. So you'd have a kaushahit, kesh akawushhid, right? And so there's a couple things that do happen there. Kesh akawushhid. And for this one, the biggest thing is there a pronoun that you can hear in between the perfective marker and the classifier? Because if there isn't, it'll cancel that vowel, which is why you say kesh chwasaku, kesh chwasaku. I don't know. Kesh awasku. They don't know. That letter A gets canceled out. So it's written right here. Is that will cancel. I was talking to someone today about Southern Tlingit. Southern Tlingit will also cancel the I in the classifier, which is wild. They're just doing wild stuff down on Henya, just throwing I vowels out of the classifier. Wild stuff. So your classifier has to be 0, da, sha, sa, s, sha, sh. Those are your options. You cannot have a plus I classifier here. Must always be minus I. Every stem is going to want to be long and low, except for the 0 open. And then there's some that don't have a low version, so they'll be long and high. But remember, the default is long and low, except for a 0 open. Kesh, chwa, sa, k. That's a 0 verb. Kesh adechwa good. I didn't go there. Okay. Any questions? Okay, we'll look at some examples. So because you don't have the letter I or the ya in the classifier, you get the 0. There's all the zeros. Chwa, wutu, ye, yi, w, awa. Our favorite one is yi because it doesn't change, positive or negative. Adeyugud. Or I guess I'd say adeyiat. Keshadeyiat. The verb itself actually doesn't change at all there. Yiat, yiat. W, awa, wudu. So for negative perfectives in the fourth person, it's got to be wuda, wudus, wudush, wudush. Every time. Kesh wudusk. Nobody knows. That's just how it is. So now we get into this 2 versions, right? One with the letter A, one without. And if we look at all of these, the first 3 letters, hua, or the first up until the classifier, hua, wutu, ye, yi, wu, ao. They're all the same. So then you, for example, chodda, chosa, chosha, chosha. Watuda, watusa, watutla, watusha. So for those, you're making one single change. That's the consonant in the classifier. D to an S, S to an L, L to an SH. Other than that, everything around it is the same. Then you have the ones that don't have the vowel. Chus, watus, yis, yis, wus, awus, kesh awusk, kesh awulteen, kesh akawushheat. They didn't write it. So that's when you look up if you're looking at the prefix as you're sort of memorizing how to put these together and internalizing it, this is all of them, right? Except the ones where you could put a thematic prefix on there. But I think for this, it doesn't really change it a whole lot. Remember, it's not a time marker, the perfective. We're really just saying it didn't happen, it didn't become that way. It's the only two things we could say.
Ǩunat'e,
Huh.
so when you look at second person plural, ye, why does the Y disappear with yida, yisa, yithla?
It might not. Let me check. So this gets us, so I'll put this document in our on our class webpage. And this is really just the prefix portion of Zeus, his verbal structure handbook. So I use this one so much, I was like, I just need to pull this out on its own. So here, for a second person, it does disappear when there's the vowel. And so I do think it's that CA, that consonant A combination that gobbles it up. I don't know exactly why. And, and maybe it's there, it's just so faint, but I think it does disappear in that case. And so that would be da, sa, shla, sha. And so again, and it's usually the second person singular, the second person plural that I think we really should increase our focus. Because when you say something like yi sateen, if you're in Tuslan, you'd say ying sateen, which is, I think, easier. For everyone else, that second Y, I think, usually disappears. And I think we got to make sure it doesn't. So you just get that little waver and pause, kind of. So here you'd have yi sateen, yi sateen. So you just get that waver, that little waver should be in there. And again, if you're in Tuslan, ying sateen, which we should just all adopt that. Then we'll save it and make sure it doesn't get contracted out. But this prefix, so like using this thing, like if you want to know how to, if the verb is na conjugation, and so you can go down, so this is going to be perfective, and negatives, right? Negative imperfectives will be this as well. This one's going to be futures. Then we start getting into, these will be imperfectives. And then this one, we start getting into na. So this one here, you wouldn't find a hortative on here, but you would find commands, right? And so, but the commands are usually going to be like just this, right? So you'd say nata. But you might have ones with nai, right? Adenai'a, go over there. But when you get into, and then it shows ones with qa, ones with ga, and ones with 0. But then we get into na and qa, and this is where you're going to find your hortatives, right? So you're going to have ishq yakh naqati, let it be blue, right? It's going to be right there. You will have situations where that gets contracted. Yinqati, right? But if you had a na conjugation, like that t'aawáḳ verb we just looked at, naqat'aawáḳ, let me cut it, let me skin it, right? Like if you started to skin it and I wanted to try it, or maybe I am the master at removing that hide, I might say that. Adednaqagut, let me go over there. So now you can do hortatives. You could do, you could get second person hortatives, but this is also, right? So I could say, Hete shuk kotan we chahat, gande naqi gut. I'm going to open the door, gande naqi gutit. I'm going to open the door so you can go outside. Like, I don't know why you'd say it, but then you could. So it could happen. It would use these. If it's na conjugation, right? So if it's ga or qa, you could look down here. Here's qa and qa. So you are going to find qaqasti is right there, right? Q would be right there. Qaqasti. I guess it's down this one. Qaqasti. So if you wanted to say, let's live good lives. So here's second person, first person plural. So we should have qaqtusti. Let's live good lives. Or you should say gedain in front of gedain qaqtusti. Okay. I was doing this the other night, and people would ask me one question. I'd take 20 minutes to answer, and I'd just go all over the map. Okay, so negative perfectives. So here's the prefixes, right? And they are right here. I'll put this slideshow up until here, so you'll have it. You can look at it. I think part of it is memorization, and just look at it and start to use it, right? You didn't look at it. Y'all didn't look at it. You didn't watch it. And then this shows with ka, but you could change it, right? So you could say, for example, T'aawáḳ. We didn't try. T'aawáḳ. We didn't succeed, right? So the ka changed to ya, but the rest stayed the same, right? And so just like we were talking about writing, so that is sha. So you have T'aawáḳ wa shahid. I didn't write it. T'aawáḳ shahid. We didn't write it. T'aawáḳ shahid. You didn't write it. T'aawáḳ shahid. Y'all didn't write it. T'aawáḳ shahid. They didn't write it. So what happens here is the same thing. We've got perfective kha, perfective t, perfective I, perfective y, perfective 0. Now the perfective marker touches sha, which knocks that letter A out of there. The letter A goes. So that's why you get T'aawáḳ. Going a negative perfective third person is probably where most people make the mistake, is they would say T'aawáḳ, which is technically not correct. T'aawáḳ. So there's nothing to protect that letter A in the classifier from the perfective marker. Perfective marker is a bully to the letter A. Get out of here! Get out of this prefix, it's mine. Questions? Okay. These are the things that will knock the letter A out of the vowel. If you have the athematic, like in T'aawáḳ or in T'aawáḳ, Outlitsa, right? So all that letter A, if there's nothing between it and that letter A, it'll knock it out. For example, Chasa'i, I'm cooking it. Isa'i, you're cooking it. Yisa'i, y'all are cooking it. Tusa'i, we are cooking it. What would the third person be? Us'i, right? So that letter A touches it, knocks that letter out. The irialis, if there's nothing between the irialis and the sa, sha, sha, it'll knock the letter A out of there. Na conjugation will. Ga conjugation will, unless it contracts to the so if you take the vowel out of this and it goes to it won't cause that vowel deletion. The perfective, daqa, which is the distributive or the non-human, and then d, because d won't allow. It's got to go plus d if you have d and it's non-zero. Any questions about that? See it in action. Okay. Object, classifier, t'aawáḳ. This wants to be long and low as a negative perfective, but it's an ejective, so it's got to stay high. You are going to have tlech, object, y, hla, but that letter A will get knocked out because there's no subject here to protect it. So it should get knocked out on all of them. So how do you think I'd say, I am not dirty? We'll start with tlech or hel.
Tlech.
Yes.
T'aawáḳ.
Tlech.
T'aawáḳ.
We should get
Ḥwa.
wush. T'aawáḳ. Tlech wush t'aawáḳ. I'm not dirty. Okay. So, when you had a positive perfective, you would get things like iwche, right? So you'd say, iwche, so that would contract the perfective. But now you've got irrealis and perfective. And in this case, once the perfective touches tla, it knocks out that vowel. So we should expect tlech iwche, which is what we get. Right, so this, it's a little bit, I think the prefix is a little bit more predictable sometimes because you don't have that. Sometimes this contracts, sometimes that contracts, right? So we should get wush'ech all the way down. They all, oops, I shouldn't say all. I should just say they, singular they. Gotta fix that. Always with the fixing. They're not dirty. The only thing we're changing here is the object pronoun. In this case, we're just going to remove it. It should be just like this if we took ḥat right out of there.
Tlech wush t'aawáḳ.
We are not dirty. So again, the perfective would have haush'ech or humsh'ech. Not now though. It's going to stay wush'ech.
Tlech
Don't answer. I'm going to think you are. Oh, say it again.
T'aawáḳ.
Well, that would be we didn't. That's getting into the we dirtied it.
Okay.
So we should expect ha. Just change to
Ha. Oh.
tlech ha wush'ech. We're not dirty. Y'all aren't dirty.
Les has ush'ech.
That would be they all. This is you all. Because if I looked at you all and I said tlech has wush'ech, you might think, but well, we are. What are you saying?
Les ye.
Yeah, tlech hi wush'ech. But now we get they all are not dirty. What am I doing? They all. Where's my editor? Somebody call my editor. I'm fixing my slides.
The hus will check.
Tlech has wush'ech. People aren't dirty. I would expect қ wush'ech. Which is maybe giving you the answer, but that's okay.
Tlech wush'ech.
tlech wush'ech. Yeah, away. Yeah, away. I like all learnt. I could contract it any way I want in any language. I'm just kidding. Okay. So now we're going to switch to a positive perfective. I cooked it. Oops, did I freeze? Hold on. Let me plug this thing in. Maybe plugging in will help. Okay, now we're using a positive perfective. Your cheat code is up on the top right. Always look on the top right if you want the cheat code. You're going to get object, perfective, subject, si, high tone, high long E. I cooked it. Two more verbs, and we'll switch to something else. Is everybody on mute? What happened?
Is it xóodzi?
Xóodzi, yeah away, yeah away. You cooked it. Oops.
Dísi.
Dísi. They, singular they, cooked it. Got to get that object changed to
T'aawáḳ.
T'aawáḳ. We cooked it.
Wusi.
T'aawáḳ. Y'all cooked it.
Tusi.
Yisai.
Dísi.
Oh no, no. Yeah, Sydney.
Dísi. Okay, okay. They all cooked it. Yeah, well, always the easiest one. Just put a huss on it. It's like a Beyonce song. If you're gonna pluralize it, put a huss on it. It was cooked.
T'aawáḳ.
Well, we gotta hit duh. There's gotta be duh in there. But yeah. So it'll always look just like this one, but the T will change to a D. And if it's a non-zero classifier, which it is, it must go plus D. So it's gotta be Z.
Wudzii.
Wudzii. Yeah, oh. So this, okay, here's your true weekend assignment, okay? So you go somewhere and be like, this is xuánat'e, I'm on assignment. We'll have to do that. So we all have to go somewhere and broadcast. We should all record like we'll do it for Kashuk Kawadai. Is that right? It's we should go somewhere and record ourselves doing like a little news story and sing it. That should be like our midterm. It's just go like
Yeah, away.
xuánat'e ya kayakhat yati on kak. Yeah, xuánat'e dat you has to whatever. I can't talk right now. But we'll do it for Kashuk Kawadai. There it is. Okay. We'll talk more about. I think that's what we should do. Just any time between now and about mid-March, record yourself somewhere. Just doing a little fun news story. Fun it up as much as you want. If you're not good at video editing, just have someone hold it or put it on a little tripod. Hit record. Hold it yourself. Do whatever you want to do. But just report something from the field. Get the language on the land. It should be it'd be nice if it was a couple minutes long. But this will get you out. Get out of your study corner. Get in the land. Just say siudak. Siudak was satan tatke siudak nastanya yidat siudak satan sekanen. Yewe kuste. Yewe kute. Dana achiti. Give me my money. That's the weather report. Okay. Let's do one more, then we'll switch to our translation. I didn't cook it. Okay. This is a zero conjugation verb. So this is the one that goes short and high in the negative. So they're all going to go I. Kesh, object, irrealis, perfective, subject, sa. But in the third person, we should see that letter A get kicked out of there by the perfective marker. So I didn't cook it.
ḵunat'e,
Ḳunat'e. You didn't cook it.
Ḥunat'e.
Ḥunat'e. So I think the first person should always sound like I'm sorry. Ḥunat'e. And the second person should always sound like I'm blaming. Ḥunat'e. Just kidding. Okay. Singular they didn't cook it. We should get the vowel kicked out of here. Because if that vowel don't go, T'aawáḳ.
T'aawáḳ,
T'aawáḳ. Yeah, away. Okay, here's an inside scoop. There was this really inappropriate time that someone decided to start chewing out all the Tlingit learners of today. It was just the wrong time to do it. I won't say more than that. It was just the absolute wrong time to do this. But they're really going off. And then they said, T'aawáḳ. And then I was like, T'aawáḳ. Right? And so just remember this. And also don't chew people out at inappropriate times. We didn't cook it.
Yes. Wutu se sorry. Wutu use
T'aawáḳ.
tuse
That's what T'aawáḳ. We didn't cook it.
wutu yeah.
All eating raw oatmeal now. Y'all didn't cook it. Now I think this should be Y-E-E-S-A. But I don't know. This might be a thing where maybe it goes, maybe that's just how it is. Maybe when people were listening to it, they didn't hear that second Y was actually gone. I don't know. It takes some field studies to do this. Okay.
But why would you think the second Y?
I got it in here, but I don't know if it would be there or not. Like when Crippen documents this, he's saying that when there's a vowel in the classifier, this second Y drops. But maybe it doesn't. And maybe it does. Because that could be, maybe that's a rule that wasn't that well documented when all those verbs were being, captured. And
Maybe they would say yin yeah.
Yes, we'll take it to Tessin. They'll tell us.
Okay.
Just make a whole list of let's make a
oh.
big list of things that you all didn't do. And then have
It's yeah, because you know how at the end of a speech in Tesla you always hear like that Y at the end is truly there.
Right? So maybe it is there. Okay. Let's keep it there for simplicity for now, I think. They all didn't cook it. Put a hus in there. Where's it go?
T'aawáḳ.
Now, just to practice using these two in a row, how would you say they didn't cook me? Let's say you're a potato. You're this you're the surviving potato telling this story. How would you say they did not cook me?
About hat T'aawáḳ.
Well, it would be a chat, but it wouldn't go there.
Oh, okay.
Ḥunat'e.
Klesh. What comes next?
Chat.
Chat.
Ah,
Klesh has chat wus I. Okay,
it-
now
it's
this
hard to think when you're being cooked.
well, you're the survive. Well, I guess okay. All your potato relatives have just been cooked, so I do have sympathy for that. But this is one I get. This one I catch myself all the time, all the time. Just remember, Hus is out there. Hus is like Neptune. It always stays out there. Kesh Hus Chat was cooked. They don't know me, right? And so, just Hus Chat Hus Ha Hus Yi. Always, always before that, because it's not an object pronoun, it's a pluralizer. And even though it's pluralizing that subject, it's still got to come before the object. So that's a good one to keep.
Ew.
Okay, that kunz wasn't cooked.
So it'd be Kes has T'aawáḳ.
Well, in this case, we're using the fourth person.
Oh, sorry. Didn't
Big
think about
kunz,
that.
klesh,
Kes has T'aawáḳ.
no has, no has.
Oh.
You're gonna
Oh.
have, it's gonna look just like this. Change the T to a D.
Wood is set.
Klesh wudus I.
Wood is
Don't eat
What
that
does-
chicken that hasn't been cooked. It's just walking around. Okay, that's enough of it. We'll come back to these. We'll do more. Now we're doing perfective, negative, perfective, back and forth, like the windshield wiper of our mind.
So is part of this going to get posted on the website?
Yes, up until here. No answers.
Okay, good.
Don't,
Okay.
don't scroll into the past and look for it either. I will. That
Clue.
no good fortune will come to you. Okay. Here's our next story. So these are being turned into little books, and then they'll be turned into little animated shorts, and you all will have your hands on it. This is another Ťaawáḳ and Shekshani masterpiece. And so our job is we're going to proof it on the left, and it's just you folks are going to practice translating. So I need a reader for sentence number 1.
T'aawáḳ, chul ya Lingit'aaní dot tusa kuji ya Lingit'aaní.
Jeez. And what kinds of things can we translate?
Long, long ago.
Long ago. It was long ago.
Lingit'aaní.
So this is all a thing. Anybody know what kind of?
Is only.
Well, so I would say you've got to look at ch, tsukuji. You got to look at all of them.
It's as if.
But if you get rid of everything in between, tsukuji, I think I'm going to ditch this W.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me pull something up real quick. Okay. So we're going to go look up ku. And then we're going to look at, oh, it is there. I think you have a hidden rounded ending that reveals itself when you put the perfective habitual on there. So here you have tisakooch. You know it every time. Every time we know it. Every single time. Hashake wawus way verbs dot. Tisakooch. Whenever they ask us about verbs, we always know it. So let's talk about a pattern here. Okay, so I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to paste it into, I think, a blank document. Hold on. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So I think this is one that we have talked about a little bit. But for this example, we're just going to use this tisakooch. It's already put together for us. And so this is a habitual verb. And we're going to learn how to do the habitual, right? We'll learn how to do all the things that are in here. This W is one of those things like, I don't think you could predict that. You just have to remember it. But with this, we don't have to change the verb a whole lot, right? So some verbs, if you put klesh in front of it, now you got to change something. This is one where you don't have to change it. You just add klesh in front of it. But this changes the meaning, I think, in a way that our English brain would not predict. How does this translate? Klesh to sakooch.
We didn't know it yet.
Yeah, we don't know it yet. Right? So that's what you get here. And this is, as far as, it's interesting, right? Because the habitual is every time, right? It's that way every time. Yena teach. Klesh yena teach. It hasn't become that way yet. This is a logical conundrum for our English brain. I think our English brain will say, no, it don't go that way, but that's just how it is. So the next step, if I just copy this and paste it, if I put ch in front of it, that pushes klesh to contract. And now I have to put a suffix on here, but now what has to happen? It's incomplete. There's one more step. I'm not adding anything.
Change it to a J.
To sakuji. Now, here's another logical conundrum. Our English brain is just going to get pushed right out to sea. You're like, you just don't get it, English brain. You just going to have to know that's just how it is. You ever explain something to a kid and eventually go, that's just how it is, right? That's where we're at. How would we translate this one?
Before we knew it.
Yes. So even though those are hard to comprehend, they will be that way every time. If you can do the habitual, put klesh in front of it, and now it translates to hasn't yet. Put ch in front of it and a suffix before it happened, right? So, for example, we know this one, like I'm sure we've heard it, right? Ye na teach. It's that way every time, right? Klesh ye na teach. What's that going to be? And then what about before it became that way? How's it going to go?
Klesh ye na teach.
Tush ye na ti je. So it's a bit complicated in terms of the meaning and how it gets put together. Very neat thing to do. So then you get, well, I guess, teach. I always exist. I don't know why you'd say it, but I guess you're floating around, or maybe you're a little egg or a little swimmy guy. Teach. I don't exist yet. But, and so you might not use those very much, but you might use this. Before I was born. Before I was born, my parents lived in Skagway. They only had one kid. It was my older brother. I'll put the notes up too. So that gets us back to here. We do have chul, and we also see you could put information in there. Ya Lingit'aaní dot at tusakuji.
Long ago before Lingit'aaní was Lingit'aaní.
Well,
Born,
if we got the tusakuji
existed.
before we
New.
about the world. The world existed. The world, I guess, not existed. Right? This is another one. Like, we were just talking about this last night. Like, if you're talking about a story that has already happened, this is a verb that you would usually put in the imperfective unless you were saying it was born. So this is one where the perfective changes the meaning. So my sentence was wu xóodzi. So even if chak you wu xóodzi, long time ago, right there was a hole. But it's gotta be in the imperfective. Or else you'd say a hole was born, and that would sound weird. Sheesh.
It was, I'm gonna guess here, beautiful.
That's what it was. Okay. What a wonderful, educated guess. Okay. I hope you're not reading it silently and deciding if you're going to go for it. I think you're all just politely waiting. We only got 4 minutes. We gotta let's get 2 more. Let's try and get 2 more.
Okay. At ka yewuti ka as akawu aka ya gus kudzati.
Okay. This one is akawu. It's just like like this high tone. It tends to attach a little bit more to the word before it.
Akawu aka ya gus kudzati.
Jeez.
Okay, now I'm Pow.
And I'm Hooch.
Ground.
How and I'm Hooch. Ground, yep. Or earth or soil or land.
Soil.
I would probably say
Yewuti.
Kayewuti. Oh, I guess we should say Akayewuti. Or else it's on the land, right? So as far as like setting the stage, the way that Tlingit works, like they're talked about the world, that must be what we're talking about now. And that's how that they probably said it and I just forgot to write it down.
So there was ground and there were trees and clouds.
Yeah, well. See, there's one where perfective might work. I don't know. It's weird. I guess if it's a living thing, maybe it shouldn't be a perfective, or else it becomes born.
Lakat ya Lingit'aaní kaye yatihin aya ya ilhin kaye wuti.
Sheesh.
So Tlingit land or Tlingit
That apostrophe
land
is world.
world.
Lingit'aaní
Lakat
yatihin.
like Lingit'aaní the like water on the world.
I'm gonna make
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a change here, just to make the sentence clear. Nothing against, these were geniuses I was working with, but I think this will make it clear. One second, if I can find all the right keys. There. Lakat ya Lingit'aaní kaye yatihin awe hin ḵunat'e.
So
This should stay low. I didn't know about the attributive suffix back when I was doing this stuff. I learned it along with all of you.
I think it became salt water.
Yes. All of the water on the world was salt water.
oh, okay.
Okay. Gonna cheesh. We're at time. Now comes the moment of suspense. You have to wait all weekend and work on your yati sentences. I'm going to give you one other task, okay? Then I'm going to remember. Maybe. You're going to bring 4 sentences that use the yati verb in some way, however you want to. I'd prefer if there are 4 different ways. Let's just say that. Don't say yati, 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 yati. Then I would like you to go into the T'aawáḳ story told by T'aawáḳ Frank Johnson and find a classifier where the I drops out. Now you gotta dig. Oh, you gotta dig and you gotta look. I'll put those in our notes on the class webpage if I remember that. The other day,
Any verb with the classifier without the I
yes.
or yati?
And you are going to write from your own brain 4 yati.
Yes.
4 sentences using different ways to use the yati verb. Change it somehow. Yati, wuti, yeqati, yinqati. There's some pretty good options. Then you're going to look in the T'aawáḳ story and find a classifier that dropped the letter I.
So whatever verb as the classifier.
Yeah, just find one.
Okay.
Gulchishuhan, tlachonachukei.
Renee,
Ah,
that story reads like the beginning of Genesis.
oh, yeah, huh? Long time ago. Yeah, we could probably, I mean, I'm sure it's out there. I'm sure someone has done it, right? In Hawaii, they have a pigeon version one. It's pretty fun. Okay. Cheese, Johan. Cheese.
Cheese.
Cheese. Yeah.
Cheese.
Ah, okay.
Awesome lessons.
Okay.
Xóodzi, Iñupiaq.
Good teach.